Stella, thanks so much. We want to continue our breaking news team coverage this afternoon. The big story, President Joe Biden has announced that he will no longer seek re-election for the White House. Joining us live on the phone to talk about that news this afternoon is current Arizona Congressman and former Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton. Congressman, are you there?
I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Congressman. Thanks so much for joining us. Just your thoughts on hearing today's news.
Well, today is a day that we should honor the career of Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been in public service to the people of Delaware and to the entire United States of America for over 50 years. And he's had a career that we should honor and respect for all that he has done for the American people, certainly for Arizona, with his support as president for the Chips and Science Act, which has done so much for the semiconductor industry. No state in the country has better benefited from that leadership than us here in Arizona. Same thing on the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, specifically to Arizona, investments in water infrastructure to help us with our drought issues. So the list could go on, but today is really a day to honor Joe Biden, his lifetime of service to the people of America, and that's what I want to do today.
Congressman Bram Resnick here. Just moments ago, you put out a post on social media endorsing Kamala Harris for president. Came about 4 or 5 hours after your initial social media post praising Joe Biden. Why the delay, and why are you endorsing her?
Well, first of all, the president of the United States made an incredibly important and what must have been a very difficult decision for him personally and for his family. He has dedicated his life to service to the American people, and I know that was an incredibly challenging decision. So the first thing I want to do before talking about anything politics is just to honor someone that I respect. I was the first Arizona Democrat to come out in support of President Biden for his presidential candidacy back in 2020. I was an early endorser of the president, and so I wanted to give him his time. This is important to say for someone that has made this important decision. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Of course, you can't separate it from politics, so I did want to give it a little bit of time before I jumped in to show my support for the vice president. I think the vice president is going to do a great job prosecuting the case against former President Trump and make a much stronger distinction between her arguments for the strength of the Biden administration's success there and where we're moving forward in the future versus what we have in former President Trump. Unfortunately, a convicted felon who's running for president. I think the prosecutor versus someone with his record will be a strong distinction.
You were also fairly early among members of Congress in calling on President Biden to step aside. How tough a decision was that for you, and what kind of blowback did you get?
Look, politics can be a very difficult business, but I have built a reputation as a straight shooter, willing to speak up even during difficult times. That was not an easy decision because I do respect President Biden and his legacy of service so much. But ultimately, for the reasons I said at the time that I put forward my recommendation that he step aside, I put forward the reasons at that time. I don't want to dwell on that. I don't want to dwell on those at any moment. But sure, of course, I got a lot of blowback, as you would expect. This is a very, very challenging and difficult time in American history, and a challenging and difficult time during this campaign. But I felt like I need to be transparent and open with people, and again, be a straight shooter.
You're running for re-election. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi reportedly told the president that the House would have been in jeopardy if he had kept on with his campaign. Did you feel in danger of losing your seat with Joe Biden at the top of the ticket?
Look, I've served at the city of Phoenix as a council member, as mayor, and now I've served 3 terms in the United States Congress. Every time I assume I am losing, and I run a race as if I'm losing, and I leave no stone unturned in order to fight for my values, my supporters, my own family who sacrificed so much to allow me to be in this business. I always work as hard as I can under the presumption that I am losing. So I don't know. I'm not a political analyst in my own races. All I know is I want to present my values. I want to present my priorities and then work as hard as I can to win that office. Writ large, though, I would say that we have to do everything we can to win the majority in the House of Representatives. Arizona is critically important. If Democrats are going to be in this majority, we have some of the most competitive districts in the entire country, including mine, as well as a couple of other the mostly hotly contested seats in the country. And I believe that with the vice president at the top of the ticket, we will have a strong shot of winning these key seats here in Arizona and winning the majority in the House of Representatives.
Where do you stand on whether there should be a contest for the nomination? And I'll add that just a few moments ago on social media, there was a post that Senator Joe Manchin is weighing getting into the presidential race. Would that be a good thing? Should there be a contest? Or do you want Democrats to come together around Kamala Harris?
Well, I think you're going to see that the Democratic Party is going to come together around the vice president. Obviously, there will be a lot of discussion about who the new vice president candidate should be. But as a matter of reality, the delegates that were committed to President Biden are now able to support any candidate they want. But as a practical matter, I think the vast majority of delegates are going to come together, be united, stand behind Vice President Harris. And we're going to have a strong convention in just a few weeks, come out of it united and in the best position to be successful in this upcoming election.
Congressman, can you talk a little bit about what this now does for the entire party as a whole? Obviously, there had been some folks, yourself included, who had called on President Joe Biden to step aside. There are others who are very adamant that he could finish out this race. With the vice president now appearing to be the front runner and leading this party and leading the ticket, what does this do for you, and how do you sell that message to the American voters before November?
Well, so those of us that felt strongly that the former President Trump should not come back to the White House, that his policies are what led to, for example, the ripping away of a constitutional right that had been in place for almost 50 years. He was proud of that achievement, taking away abortion rights from women across this country. That someone who had that record did not belong back in the White House. I believe that we were united in that effort. People had different opinions about how to best get there. This decision, this important decision by President Biden, allows the party to unite and be in the strongest possible position moving forward. And that's why I think you are going to see this party come together swiftly. Yes, we had a little disagreement. Again, all for the same goal, is to make sure that Donald Trump does not get back in that White House. We were united in that position. There were some different ideas about how to best get there. Now we are going to be strongly united and pushing forward together.
Now, this was a historic disagreement among the parties, something we haven't seen in quite a long time. I do have to ask if you thought President Biden wouldn't be able to prosecute a campaign against Donald Trump. Why do you believe, or I assume you still believe, he should remain as president and can do that job?
Well, first off, the issue that I brought up as to why I thought the president stepped aside in that race, look, that's over now. The president has made this historic decision, this important decision. We honor him for his incredible career of service to the people of this country. I do believe that the vice president is going to just strongly be able to prosecute this case. The issue was really could President Biden continue to be in the strongest possible position for a full 4-year term? That's now off the table, and I don't think we're at this point concerned about that. We're concerned about prosecuting this case against former President Trump. But no, I think he'll do a strong job for the remaining months that he is in office, and I think history will treat him very, very well. First off, for defeating Donald Trump when he was a threat to our democracy, and then making this historic decision to give him the best possible opportunity to defeat Donald Trump in this election and not let him back into the White House.
Have you had any recent conversations at all with the Vice President, Congressman Stanton? I know that you've appeared with her at several events when she's made appearances here in Arizona. Have you had a chance to talk with her recently about the news of so many people wanting the president out, obviously, to drop out of the race, and potentially what that could look like had it actually happened?
Well, I have a good working relationship with the Vice President. Obviously, I had a chance to fly on Air Force Two with her when she came out to Arizona on one of her many trips out to Arizona, but a recent trip, particularly on the issue of fighting to reestablish a woman's right to choose, to reestablish abortion rights in this country, which is going to be on the ballot. In Arizona, it's on the ballot. We are going to have an initiative, one of the most important initiatives in the entire United States of America, the Abortion Access for All initiative, with Arizonans are going to overwhelmingly support. They want to restore. We want to go forwards on civil and constitutional rights. We don't want to go backwards on those issues. So we had a chance to spend some time together on Air Force Two not that long ago. We have a good working relationship. I've actually known her for over 20 years. I've known her back when she was the DA in San Francisco, before she was even Attorney General. She and I were both selected for a leadership development program when I was on the city council, and she was the DA through the Aspen Institute. So I've had a chance to get to know her over many, many years, and we've had a good working relationship the whole time.
20 years. I did not know that. That's quite a history. What did you think about her back then?
I was impressed by her back then. We had a chance not only to study together, because there's a program that we were in was kind of a master's level class in political science, both Democrats and Republicans. There was over 20 of us in our cohort. Josh Shapiro was in that program as well, by the way. And we had a chance to kind of talk about political philosophy and why we're in public service, and to kind of remind people that despite the fact that politics can be very difficult, challenging, and it is not easy to do. We are in this for the right reasons. We are in this, hopefully in a bipartisan way, to try to advance American interests. So, in addition to being in the Aspen Institute program, we were able to travel to India and China to look at our long-term economic competitors, et cetera. And so, I've known her for a long time, and I've really been impressed with her, and I've been obviously had a chance to follow her career and her incredible success.
She will have challenges, I'm sure you know, just explaining her record at Vice President, a tough job. At one point, she was appointed immigration czar. What's your assessment of how she did in that role, and how she can explain to voters why our border is the way it is now, given the role she had?
Well, I think she's got to be very clear that, like President Biden, she was very supportive of the bipartisan deal that was worked out in the Senate, including by Senator Lankford Murphy and Independent Senator Sinema. So you had, left, right, and center come together on an important border deal. I think she'll have an opportunity to explain why that was good public policy and why it was unfortunate that that bill, which was killed by former President Trump when she spoke out against it, was wrong for the United States of America. We had an opportunity to actually solve this issue and do something more significant about it. I think she'll also have a chance to talk about her support for the executive orders taken by President Biden, which, as you know, we are now significantly below the levels that we saw back in December in terms of the number of people trying to cross and seek political asylum between ports of entry, which has been a tremendously successful program, those executives. So I think she'll have a chance to make the case that the other side is going to try to make this their number one issue, and they're going to have to explain why they did not support the Senate bipartisan deal and why they think the president's executive orders were not the right approach on this important issue.
All right. Arizona Congressman Greg Stanton. Congressman, thank you so much for the conversation, the time, and learning something new. Had no idea that there was a who's who of a conference with so many political heavyweights 20 years ago. All right.
Thanks so much. Have a great one.
Congressman, thank you very much.